The second update is regarding an initiative that came to mind during my my summer holidays. And I promise this is not an excuse for me to talk about my summer. It is actually relevant, I promise. So during the summer, I had the privilege of taking part in a leadership exchange program with the US State Department. And as part of that program, we got to tour states in America and look at initiatives focused around youth empowerment and civic engagement. And whilst visiting some local authorities in Florida and in Wisconsin, I came across quite good examples of youth in governance initiatives where I saw young people just as passionate, just as engaged, and just as affected by local government policies as much as our young people here. I saw them taking part in scrutiny work with those local authorities. And so it got me thinking, do we perhaps need to look at having a similar model here? Because I don't know how other members feel, but it doesn't sit right with me to scrutinize services for and about young people without those who are actually affected by those services having a voice. And I know this is something that other committees are looking at as well, specifically Healthier Communities panel. And so I wanted to bring that back to members to get your thoughts on the idea, and also to gauge whether this is an area that you want to move forward on in order to make our panel more inclusive and also strengthen our scrutiny function as well by including those who are impacted by the services we scrutinize. But just to be clear, no decisions have been made, because I think these need to be made with the whole panel, not just unilaterally. So no decisions have been made. And if tonight you do agree that this is an area you want to move forward on, then the next step will be to go away and reflect on how best to incorporate that youth voice in scrutiny. And I welcome any members here who are interested to take part in that process. And so with that said, I'm going to open the floor for any thoughts, and then we'll end with hopefully an agreement. Councillor Butcher.
Thank you, Chair. I very much support the idea, and although I said in my maiden speech I was the youngest councillor, I was corrected. I am in fact the second youngest councillor. But even then, I've been out of secondary education for 8 years. So although my experience as a youth, as it were, is now somewhat outdated. And I think there is no better experience than first-hand experience. And I think it would be a great idea to include more people who are actually affected by what we discuss here, to get their opinions and views on it.
Thank you, Councillor Butcher, for that contribution. And I think the initiative would have been in trouble if one of our youngest members wasn't in support of it. So I'm glad you're in support of it. And I won't tell you how long I've been out of secondary or primary education.
With respect, I just want to say that I think it's an excellent idea, but as the councillor subsequently said, you know, you've got youth parliament, but you've also got school councils, you've got all sorts of various systems kind of in place, working very well, even from primary school upwards. But I just want to remind you about those minutes that you got from the work with young people on race and discrimination and their levels of comfort and otherwise with the police. And just encourage you to be creative about the way in which you may be seeking to encourage young people to give their voice and to share with you, because I think that way you will get a more engaged and indeed engaging voice of young people, rather than it being just the public speakers, typical public speakers. You might want to look for different ways of enabling people to speak, in inverted commas.
Better idea, but I think I'd have to know more about how you wanted it to work, how many people you'd want to bring in, how it would be representative. I think it's a really interesting idea, but I think I'd need to know more about it going forward.
But I think it's, you know, it's good to get young people involved.
So, you know, I'm trying to congratulate you, Sama, Chair. I think you've, you know, it's a good initiative, and I think we need to push on with it, getting the shape of it, what it's about, what we want to get out of it. And it doesn't have to involve people just listening to us ramble on, but it is about us picking up things that we don't know about because we're old. You know, it's simple as that, in my opinion. So sorry to have a bit of a rant, but, you know, I do think it's a great initiative.
It was a supportive rant, and so I don't mind it. Cool. So to wrap up the discussion, firstly, thanks to all members who are supportive of this idea going forward in some form. And I absolutely hear the concerns that some members have also raised as well with regards to the structure and effectiveness and whether this is the right forum for youth input. I hear your thoughts on that. And so if members agree in terms of next steps, I can go away and think more about this and have discussions with the Youth and Education and Inclusion team, because they manage all of our youth initiatives and have access to the young people who are already involved in council initiatives. And so there'll be a first port of call. And what we can do is compile a report on suggestions for how this can move forward to bring to the next scrutiny panel. And should we want to proceed with one of those models, we can then look at actioning that model. And with these next steps as well, to anyone in this chamber and online as well, if you'd like to be involved in shaping the next steps, please do reach out to me after tonight, and I can rope you into discussions to move this initiative ahead, because I know that everyone here values the voice of young people. We just want it to be meaningful and actually enhance scrutiny and not simply be tokenistic and unnecessary. So are we in agreement on those next steps? Brilliant. Thank you.
But to wrap up, we've got a question from Osama.
Thanks, Victoria. And I just want to second everything that Victoria said. Yeah, because programs like this make a difference, and it's great that you guys are already here. Because when I was around your age, I was just all about my video games, so I wouldn't be spending my summer doing something like this, even though it would help me. So I want to follow up the question that Riz asked about what are some of the challenges here. Because I work in politics as well. I'm a politician back in London, and I know that politicians don't always respect the views of young people, listen to the views of young people, even though, you know, you guys are on the ground and you know what's going on. So as people who are on the ground and know what's going on in your communities, with your friends, your families, if possible, I'd like to go around in a circle and just ask you guys, if you could change anything and there was, you know, no limitations, if you could change anything in Milwaukee or the United States, what would that one thing be? Just one thing.
You're right. We'll start with your name with a G, and we just keep going to the right that way. And you guys speak up a little bit louder, because we already recorded to you. Sorry.
World hunger.
I would change how like the segregation between communities.
Say it a little louder over here.
I would probably change the segregation between the communities.
Segregation between communities?
That was my same answer also, the segregation.
I would say the lack of community resources that we have.
Like the homelessness and like drug addiction problem that we have.
The lack of youth opportunities that can keep kids out of trouble.
I'll say the lack of actually helping the kids instead of killing them.
Better like fun parks and stuff like that to get people out of the house.
The gas prices.
The amount of homicides that's happening every year.
Speak up, Rakim.
The communities,
What about it?
like our parks and stuff in the communities, where the communities get together.
Probably the environment.
Like abandoned places, turn them into like something different and new instead of just having them just sit there and rot for years.
Just the way they judge young black males.
Yeah.
More money making opportunities for youth.
Police brutality.
I'll probably say gun violence.
Can't hear you.
I still can't.
What? We cannot hear you. I'm in front of you.
Gun violence.
Help and get more resources for struggling communities.
I would say the education, cause like the like private schools like Cllr, they have better education than NPS. So I want equal education.
I'd say better funding for schools, so every school can have like what private schools have.
Gun violence, drug addiction.
I think that's everybody. Thank you so much for sharing all the things that you change. They're all important. And the thing is, on all of those issues, you can have an impact and you can make a difference. And I say that as someone who, when I was young, growing up in London, and in London we have inner city communities as well. We're not all living like, you know, the royal family or whatever ideas you have about the UK. We have inner city communities, and when I was growing up, I did not think I could have an impact on some of these issues that I was experiencing, coming from an immigrant background and growing up in a working class family on an estate in the UK, which is sort of like the projects in the UK. And I definitely did not think that I was going to be a politician and go into politics, because there weren't many young black men in politics, so I had no one to look up to. But then one of the things that really inspired me is when Obama was elected, and I just couldn't believe that you guys had done something like that, because even though I looked up to America in lots of different ways, like movies and its culture, and I dressed like I was an American, and some of my language was more American than English, but I never saw politics as, you know, an avenue for a young black man. But when I saw his example and I looked into his background and how he just cared about his community and tried to make a difference, it made me want to get involved. And so on all the issues you guys care about, try and find ways that you can make a difference. And if someone's not listening to you, look for other ways to make a difference. And I'm sure you guys are going to go on to make a change in whatever you decide to do. So, you know, just keep doing your thing, keep coming to programs like this, and I wish you all the best, guys. Good luck.
They going through a tough time. Heart broke, left behind, never thought she'd be mine. So lost that I can't find myself. I'm stuck inside my mind, I think I'm stuck inside myself. Wish you could block my shine, wish I could block myself. I guess I'm trying to be better so I can heal my health. Mama, please stop crying, I know your son, he dying. I know he keep on lying, I'm like the birds, I'm flying. All these new drugs I'm trying, I know I keep on buying, but I can't.
They're trying to do better for me. They're trying to do better. They're trying to do better for me.